Hi, my name's Howard Kirby, this is Frank, and we're from Mullenscote Gundogs. Today, my plan is to talk to you about introducing a young puppy like Frank. Now, those of you who know your stuff will know immediately that Frank isn't a Gundog puppy, but everything we're going to talk about and look at in this session is going to apply to a Gundog puppy also. We're going to look at the kit that we need, we're going to look at the day-to-day management, we're going to look at things, leads and food and the stuff that we're going to use and the toys and the chews, and also we're going to have a look at how we can house him, so using a crate and possibly a playpen. So I hope you'll enjoy what we're going to show you over the next 20 minutes. One of the really important things that we need to think about when we bring a young puppy home is that we have somewhere to keep him safe. Now, this is a particularly small breed. He's a teckle, which means he's tiny, and he's always going to be tiny. However, we need a crate that's a suitable size for him. I like dog crates. The reason I like dog crates is that it keeps the puppy safe, it keeps your house safe, and it allows you to teach your dog to have downtime, to learn to relax, to be quiet, to be calm, to sleep, and to be away from you. And we can use this crate to slowly develop a sense of confidence in a young puppy. That means he doesn't end up he doesn't end up suffering from what we might term separation anxiety. That's where a puppy is worried about you not being with him. So when he first comes home, he's going to need to be near you a lot. He's been moved away from his litter, he's been moved away from his family, he'd be frightened, he'd be unsure. So we recommend that you keep the crate close to you. In fact, for the first couple of weeks that Frank came home to us, he slept in this little crate on my bed right next to me. Now that's maybe a little bit extreme, but it's worked extremely well. It's meant that Frank is now really relaxed in the crate. I can leave him for very short periods of time and he will curl up, go to sleep, he'll relax, he will learn that when he's in this crate, he's safe, he's sound. I always leave him in there with a special chew for him, just to give him something to do. As it happens, this is a top-loading crate. You can get front-loading crates. And what I do is during the day, I just use a towel. So what I do is I just gently put that towel over the back, and I can either just leave the front end open if I want him to sit and watch, to be part of kind of family activities and stuff so that he can see us all, or at night, or when I leave him and I want him to go to sleep, I simply put him in blackout, and that relaxes him. He enjoys his time in there. He goes to sleep almost instantly, and I can come and let him out. Obviously, with a young puppy, we're going to need to let this little dog out at least maybe every 2 hours maximum, every time he wakes up, every time he's been fed, every time he's drunk. Basically, as soon as he comes out of this crate, we need to take him outside to the place where we want him to do his business and teach him long term that that's where we're going. The other thing I failed to mention, as well as stopping Frank destroying your house, it's also going to allow you to toilet train this dog much quicker, because you're managing his every movement and his every opportunity. So you take him outside, let him toilet, let him do his business, bring him back in, then you can let him be in the household and enjoy the comforts of the house. He's squeaking at the moment because I'm still here. The comforts of the house, you can play with him before you put him away. Just to close this little piece of information, is really important that you recognize how tiny, how young that these young babies are, and they don't need a lot of time. They need a little bit of play, and they need loads and loads and loads of rest. So we've had a bit of a chat about housing the young puppy, the use of a crate, maybe a playpen. Something else that's really important is the day-to-day management of your puppy's food. So clearly you need to decide on a food type. We hang our training hat almost entirely on the use of food to train our young dogs. So we start our young puppies really quite early, from maybe as soon as they arrive at home, like day 2 of getting home to you, we'll start training them using their daily food allowance. So in this jug, you can see there's not much because it's only Frank, he's tiny, is a measurement. That's his daily food allowance. And my intention is throughout the day, he'll have some meals, he'll have breakfast, lunch, tea, but also I will be dipping in and out of this pot to get these little pieces of food, these little pieces of kibble, to encourage Frank to learn the basics of training, which we'll start to talk about in a minute. For those of you that choose a raw diet, then clearly dipping in and out of raw food is more difficult, and you might need to use some specialist food treats. For dogs that are really motivated by food, and my view is that if we manage their food correctly, all dogs are motivated by food. You can use them to train them. If you overfeed a dog, if you choose to let your dog graze all day, the fact is he won't work for this. He's unlikely to work for your daily food treats. So we need to manage his food and use his food to get him working for a living. By working for a living, I don't mean he's going to go and cut the lawn or carry the coal in. But what he's going to do, he's going to have to come and he's going to have to sit and he's going to have to focus. And those are the three main things, really, the recall and the sit. And being quiet and sitting still and focusing on you, we're starting to condition this little mind, this young puppy, whether he's a Gundog, whether he's a guard breed, or whether he's a kind of Teckle breed like Frank, still a hunting dog. We want them to focus on us. This is part of making sure that from the very beginning, the puppy starts to come to us for food, fun, affection and safety. Those are the things that we really need to concentrate on. So measure out his daily food allowance if you can and get him working for it. If you overfeed him, he won't be interested in this. If he's overfed, when you offer him a piece of food, hey puppy, would you like to eat my food? He's likely to say, no, no way, I've had enough food, I'm not interested in you. So you will not be able to train your dog using food or food rewards. Okay, so earlier on, we talked about housing the dog, keeping him safe, keeping your house safe, keeping you safe from this little terrorist, your puppy. We also covered food and how we're going to use food as a means of training your dog, teaching your dog to do things. Another superb way of training dogs to do things is to use their prey drive, to use their desire to chase and catch things. So we can use what you might label toys, but in the Gundog industry, we call them dummies. And these excellent pieces of kit provided by Sporting Saint are toys, dummies, that we might start to use in order to develop our puppies' early stages of training. There are two elements to this. Is one, as a Gundog, in the long term, we want the dog to go out and to retrieve and bring back game. In the short term, we're going to use these toys not only to teach him to do that, because there are some strategies and some basic elements of the retrieve that we need to establish with the dog. Basically, go out, pick it up and come back and deliver to hand. He won't learn that by himself. Most young Gundog puppies will rush out and pick up a toy if you throw it for them. Some will automatically bring it back to you. At some stage in your puppy's training, he or she is going to go, actually, no, I'm not sure I want to bring this back to you. We're going to cover that in a later video. But we can use these toys to again get the dog to engage with us. Remember when we were talking about the food, I referred to how we can use the food to get the puppy to come to us, to want to be with us. Well, by playing games with him, by being a source of entertainment, by teaching him, hey, if you come to me, I'll throw this thing for you. So, you know, Sporting Saint have got a beautiful little puppy dummy here. There are two different types. One with a toggle on for throwing it, obviously for throwing it distances. It's quite small, it's quite compact, it can go in a little dog's mouth. And this one that hasn't got any toggles on it, and it's probably the dummy of choice for a really young puppy, because the less bits that hang off it, the more likely the dog is to pick up the dummy neatly in the middle and less likely to get involved with the toggles and the flappy bits. So with a young dog, we're generally, with a young puppy, we're using a toy that doesn't have too many flappy bits with him on it, because we want to encourage him to go out and pick it up and bring it back. If your dog runs out and picks something up accidentally by the toggle and then starts to run back and this flaps, this will inherently drive his prey drive up, and he will start to want to shake it and rattle it and basically want to kill it. We don't want a young retrieving dog to learn that. We want them to be gentle in their mouth, to be careful in how they carry game. So by not giving them flappy bits or things that they can get hold of and waggle, you can see how that waggles. Once that waggles in its mouth, whether we like it or not, it behaves like prey, and that brings up his prey drive and makes him want to waggle it. So by using and then he drops it then. By using a dummy that's light for a puppy's mouth, it's soft on their baby teeth, and it's not got too many toggles. There's a tiny toggle on here. Sometimes you have to cut those off because they learn how to play with those. just moving up not moving up, moving aside. For some dogs that aren't that fussed about retrieving, most of our Gundog breeds, if you go to the right breed lines, will inherently, genetically, it's just wonderful how naturally predisposed to going out and picking up stuff and carrying it back to you they are. But with some dogs, they'll benefit from something like this. This is a rabbit ball. So basically it's a tennis ball with a rabbit skin on it. And one of the things we'll talk about throughout all of the videos that we do is the value of these. As a general rule of thumb, every dog's different, but as a general rule of thumb, this dummy, as exciting and fun as it is, it's got this lovely pheasant print on it. This rabbit ball, because it's furry and because it will roll, it's difficult to show you here, but because it rolls, when I throw this across the floor, it will roll and it will bring the dog's drive up. It will encourage him to want it more. There are advantages and disadvantages to wanting a toy too much, because if he wants it too much, guess what? He won't want to give it back to you. So maybe this will be better. That's something you'll have to experiment with. Again, we're going to look at the development of training later. So we've talked about the toys and how important they are. Obviously, at some point, you're going to need to introduce your puppy to a lead. This lead's quite big for little Frank, but he needs to, we're using a slip lead. You can use a clip and collar. You can use whatever type of lead you wish to, but in the Gundog industry, lots of us like these slip leads. They're quick, they're easy, they slide on and off, they're lightweight, we can put them away in our coat pockets without too much worry. So a lead, we're going to have to introduce him. Basically, what we'll do with that is we'll just encourage him to put his head through that loop. So he'll put his head through for a piece of food, and we'll gradually get him used to it. Don't just whack a lead on a dog and expect him not to be frightened. Of course, he'll be frightened. So, guys, that's the basic equipment we're going to use to engage the dog with, to use as toys for him to carry around. On that note, just quickly, and there's a danger I go on too long, but what we do is we provide our dog, when he's in his crate and in his playpen, we provide him with chews, hard chews. We call it hardware. And those chews are there for him to chew on. Your dog needs to chew. If you don't provide him with something to chew, he'll chew your cables, he'll chew your sofa, he'll chew you. So we need to provide him with a chew that he can chew on happily. They help to comfort him and keep him quieter when he's in a bed or a crate and we want him to rest. But we'll also need to use little chews that we can use to keep him on our lap. But alongside all of that, the last thing I'm going to show you in this piece of equipment is this thing we call a placeboard. The placeboard is going to be really, really important in the way our training plan moves forward. Some of you will choose not to use placeboards. I kind of think you should really give it some thought, if for no other reason to understand how the placeboard works, because that will help you as a dog trainer. So we have got food, we've got toys, we've got to introduce him to a lead. I haven't kind of mentioned it. I've got my whistle. I hope it's not making my microphone rattle too much. And we've got the placeboard. We're kind of geared up for training now. What we're going to do next is show you how we go about introducing your dog to basic training using food, placeboards, I apologize, and toys. So we've looked at how we can encourage little Frank to not be frightened of the placeboard, to want to go on it. What we're trying to do, as we said earlier, is to establish that if he goes on that placeboard, he gets food. So we've done that by dropping food on there. What we're going to do now is start to use the placeboard, and we're going to use that as a means of a platform, basically, in which we can train him to do come, sit, focus. I'm going to try and get him. Bear in mind, this little puppy is 10 and a half weeks old now. So I'm going to try to get him to come, to sit in front of me, to look up and focus on me, to be quiet, not to jump up, keep all four paws on the ground. Don't you chew my microphone. To maybe just move him around in a small circle so we get him pirouetting, and that will eventually be the beginnings of basic heel work. So let's get down to business. Once again, I'm going to use food out of his daily food allowance. Remember, for those of you who've got a dog that's a little bit fussy and you want that little bit extra from your dog, I've got some food treats there that are kind of satin beef dripping, which makes them extra exciting. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to pop Frank on the floor and encourage him onto the placeboard. Frank, come, sit, watch. Good. Now, Frank doesn't really know these commands yet. Frank, sit. Okay, so I just need to invite him up. See, I'm drawing the food treat up towards my face. I'm going to immediately show him that there's another one. And if I do that, you see already, Bless him, this little dog is focusing on me. He's already figured out, and we have done this a couple of times before. Can you see? Because I didn't touch and engage him with the food straight away. If I don't almost belt feed the dog, so you see I'm showing him the food straight away. I don't want him to jump up. So I'm just letting him know that there's another food treat to come. So at the moment his paws are coming up, I don't really want that. So I get him just to hold a focus. If I leave him too long, he'll get distracted. And you can see how already I'm getting 3, 4, maybe 5 seconds of Frank just watching me patiently. He's just nestling his bottom down in, which is really nice. So what I do need to do is get him to just come off the board, and then Frank, come, sit, watch. Good. So I use the word good like you would use a clicker just to mark the end of that exercise. I also want him to stay. So you see, I can just start just moving away. And this little dog, considering he's only done this a couple of times, is just doing fantastic. Now you see, he took that food from me, and this is really important. If I don't let him know that there's another piece of food there, he's very quickly, because he's a tiny dog with a easily distracted, very short attention span. I've got to keep him engaged on with me. I move away. I've already got a sit stay coming. You can see he's quite happy to stay there, and things are looking good. So let's try that again. We can encourage Frank, come, sit, watch, stay. Good. Okay, all built into one. I then want to begin, I talked to you about it earlier, I just want to start him thinking about what we call the finish position, where we get him just to come and turn and sit alongside me. Now that's a bit crude and it's a bit basic. We need to keep practicing it. So I'll just pull him this way slightly. Frank, come on. Look at you. Bring him this way and sit him there. Okay, so we're teaching him to move and follow my hand. This is really basic, guys. You know, like I said to you earlier, this little dog is only 8, so I've lost his attention already. Frank, good boy. Silly noises, get them back. Food on his nose. I want you to imagine that you've just got to keep food on his nose. This is the beginnings of basic training. Come, sit, watch, stay. We're getting to a degree. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to chance my hand now. And long term, this placeboard is going to be somewhere that the moment Frank sees it, he's going to come straight to you. He's going to want to come to this board, sit on it, and expect food. What I also want him to start to think about is that if he comes and sits on it, we're also going to use a toy. Now, I've changed things up a bit. So this is this new toy. I don't know what he's going to make of that. I promise you, if you do enough early placeboard work, when you throw this, the dog will go out and come straight back to the placeboard. We have not done enough placeboard work with Frank yet to expect him to go off and bring it back. Bear in mind, Frank isn't a retriever, anything but. He's not designed to retrieve, but all dogs can be taught to retrieve. Frank, pop, pop. So I bring him onto the board, and all I'm going to do is just drop that there, see what he wants to do with it, see if he can pick it up. I'm not sure if he can even pick up that toy, and if he can, we'll see if we can get him to come back up on the board. Frankie, come on. Good boy. So he's run off with it. Frank, pop, pop. So that failed miserably. That's kind of how it goes, guys. Here he comes. Good boy. Frankie, come on. Come on, puppy. So I'm going to reach out and grab that and bring him back. And even though he hasn't brought it back himself, he kind of came back towards me. I want him to understand that the beginnings of a retrieving game start and finish on here. So as I said to you, it's unlikely. Frankie, come on. He just wants to do what all puppies want to do. He wants to possess that. You know, he wants to go off and kill it. And he's just run off across the room now. He's disappeared off shot. We'll not see him again. He's going to go off and destroy that toy if I leave him. Here he comes. Come on, Frank, pop, pop. I can maybe offer him a food treat. This is another option. Frank, pop, pop, come on. So this is exactly how you'd expect a puppy to perform. Here you go. Puppy, 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 puppy. The first couple of times you introduce him to either a toy or a food treat. So guys, you can see I'm a professional dog trainer. It's what I do for a living. I'm not worried about this. I say I'm not worried. I want this to change. It's the way it is. What we're really good at, Frank, is come, sit, watch. I really want to develop the come and the sit and the watch and the association around this placeboard before I start to use this toy. That would be the obvious thing to do with this dog. Frank, come on, pop, pop. So if I can't get him back as it is, what he's done, he's gone off and he's found all this lovely lighting that we've got to make this lovely film. Here he comes again. Frank, come on, pop, 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 pop. Good. So guys, there you go. There's the beginnings of basic training. There's lots more to do. I just wanted to show you how we introduce a dog to a placeboard, how we can introduce it to a really tiny pup, a really young pup, and start to condition his mindset that come to me, come to the placeboard, and all good things will happen. So the beginnings of basic training. I hope you've enjoyed this episode from Shooting and Country TV. There are going to be several more, lots more in the future, hopefully. I'd like to thank Chudley's, Sporting Saint and the Insurance Emporium for helping out with these videos. Remember to like and subscribe, and look forward to seeing you again soon. So, Howard Kirby from Mullenscote Dog Training Centre. Whether you have one dog or multiple dogs like myself, insurance for veterinary care is really, really important. So whether you have one dog or multiple dogs and pets, insurance is really important. There are some great insurance companies out there. My personal choice is the Insurance Emporium.